This is True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. I'm your host, Daria and ghostwriter, content strategist, and holistic health warrior. No, I'm not a doctor, nurse, nutritionist, or any kind of medical professional, and this show does not dispense medical advice. I'm just an informed patient sharing what I've learned on my own healing journey. I also interview accomplished authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and functional medicine practitioners who are transforming lives. If you're ready to break free from the sick care system, reclaim your health, and transform your life, you're in the right place. Let's get unfiltered. Hi, everyone, and welcome to True Voice Unfiltered and this first episode of 2026. And today I have for you a timely topic for anyone thinking about better health this year. This is a time of New Year's resolutions. I call them intentions, maybe taking a look at your health and seeking to, if you're like many people, lose weight, maybe start working out at the gym, build muscle, just get in better overall shape. Well, today we're going to be talking about Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Because you know me, I'm all about holistic and combining holistic medicine with conventional medicine. I guess what some people call integrative medicine, but I'm all about what works and also getting outside the box if things are not working. If that pill has stopped working for your migraine headaches, which is something my guest and I talk about today, it's time to maybe look outside for other solutions that can complement or even replace what you're doing. And as my guest says today, oftentimes that prescription you're taking, that pill for that migraine headache, to keep using that example, maybe the bridge you need while you're undergoing an individualized acupuncture treatment. Because acupuncture, as with holistic medicine in general, is very personalized to each patient. And my guest today is a licensed acupuncturist. Her name is Michelle Stobart. She's also a yoga instructor. She's had a very interesting trajectory from yoga, getting involved in yoga and becoming a yoga instructor, to becoming a licensed acupuncturist. And I think many of you might be surprised by the rigorous education, training, and exams she had to undergo to become a licensed acupuncturist. So today we talked to Michelle all about acupuncture, a little bit about Chinese medicine and what Chinese medicine encompasses. And acupuncture, of course, is one of those disciplines. And that is what Michelle specializes in. But she brings her entire background and an individualized approach to every patient. I'm going to read Michelle's True Voice story from her website, inhaleyoga.org. And then I'm going to bring her on and we're going to have a very interesting discussion about acupuncture and how it can help you heal from numerous chronic issues and problems. Michelle says, "My story is one of growth and change. For the last 18 years, at the center of all that growth and change has been my unwavering dedication to offering health and wellness treatments through a therapeutic-minded approach. I bring endless hours of continuing education and experience to guide clients into health and wellness with my extensive toolkit of breathwork, body mechanics, mindfulness, and holistic wellness. My story began at a young age with a deep curiosity of the natural world and human body. It further deepened in science, biology, and psychology classes. As I grew, I learned more about who I wanted to become by weeding out what I didn't. In 1997, I found yoga and it began to expand that curiosity in new ways, and ever since I haven't been able to get enough education, information, or wisdom. In 2003, while resting at the end of a yoga practice, an inner wisdom whispered, "It's time," and off to teacher training I went. I received my 200-hour yoga training from Clayton Horton at Green Path Yoga in San Francisco, California. In 2004, I opened Inhale as a yoga studio. For the last 18 years, I've taught daily classes, trained teachers, run workshops, presented at conferences, and continued to grow. A big year of growth came in 2017. I earned my 500-hour yoga training certification from Sam Yoga Institute in Columbus, Ohio, and submitted all my documentation to the International Association of Yoga Therapists to officially become recognized as a yoga therapist, though I had been working and practicing as such for years already. In 2018, during a period of inspiration, it became clear that acupuncture was the next step along my journey. After research and site visits, I began to study traditional Chinese medicine at the American Institute for Alternative Medicine in 2019. Wow, I had no idea the learning I was in for in this 2.5-year program. I graduated with honors and my master's in acupuncture in December 2021 and completed my exams for licensing in March 2022. I'm officially licensed as an acupuncturist with the Ohio State Medical Board. My path has grown so much over my career as a teacher and healer. I've always been guided by the needs of my clients and an inner wisdom that knows just when to push me into a better version of myself to serve the needs of my community. And here I am, ready to inhale into its next level. And don't worry, even if you don't live in Athens, Ohio, and the surrounding areas, Michelle is going to tell us about an organization, a website that you can go to that includes a directory where you can find licensed acupuncturists in your area. And she also gives some tips on how to find the right acupuncturist for you. And that's very important. In my book, My Escape from the Sick Care System, A Guide to Overcoming PCOS, Hashimoto's, and Autoimmune Conditions with Functional Medicine, I included a free guide for my readers on how to find the right functional medicine practitioner for them. I went through good practitioners and bad practitioners, and my whole goal with my book was to help other people not only discover functional medicine, but save themselves a lot of time and aggravation by finding the right person for them first. And the same is true with acupuncture. So let's go join my guest, Michelle Stobart, and learn more about Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So Michelle Stobart, welcome to True Voice Unfiltered. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Daria. I really appreciate it.
Well, Michelle, this is such a great topic as we were discussing offline. What a great topic for the new year, because a lot of people now start thinking about better health and what they can do for themselves. I love what we call alternative medicine. I hate that expression, but it's right now, I guess it's the best way to explain it so people understand. But I'm all about thinking outside the box and finding other ways, other paths to wellness, which of course has been, gosh, your whole career. So I read your intro, your bio, but I would love if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words, and then kind of like give the audience a sort of a brief overview of Chinese medicine and the philosophy behind it.
Okay, well, so we got a lot to unpack then. Okay, so let's start. My name is Michelle Stobart, and I am a licensed acupuncturist in the state of Ohio. To become a licensed acupuncturist in the state of Ohio, you have to do um, a master's level program, and it's usually about 3 years. And then you also have to do board exams from the NCCAOM, which is the governing board of acupuncture. I should know what all those letters stand for, but whatever. They're also going through a name change, so who knows? But anyway, I did my education. It was about a 3-year program. Part of that was clinic rounds, working under supervision, doing acupuncture, and then also, took the board exams, sat for the licensure for the state of Ohio, and all of that. Before all of that started, though, I have a long history, like you said, in wellness. So my career started as a yoga teacher and then expanded into body work, massage work, and then expanded into now what I do predominantly, which is acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So it's been an over 20-year career in an alternative health medicine kind of field, just kind of growing my skills over time. And really I'm a girl who kind of follows the flow of where the universe is guiding me. And so it's
Love
been
it.
that too. You understand that.
I'm that kind of girl too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been that. It's been a long career of building skills and building information and building knowledge. And then most of that comes through my own first personal experience, having a personal experience of yoga and the way I feel because of yoga and how it changes my life. Then now I want to go be a yoga teacher. I was supposed to go to law school. I went to yoga school,
It's amazing.
getting Thai massage and going, wow, this is really great. People would love this. And then training in that to be able to share that as well. Because from where I am in Ohio, and when I started this back in 2003, 2004, there wasn't a whole lot of yoga teachers. There wasn't a whole lot of Thai massage practitioners. There still isn't a lot of acupuncturists. Like those kinds of things are harder to find in the area where I am. And so I travel a lot, and when I travel a lot, I pick up different things, different experiences to be able to decide or get that message from the universe, like, you need to bring this to your community. This would be an added benefit. for your community. So that's kind of how my path has unfolded over the years is experience, understanding, sharing. Experience, understanding, sharing.
And I'm really glad, Michelle, that you went into the educational background that you had to undergo for acupuncture, because I think a lot of people just have a misperception that somehow this isn't serious. Like, I don't feel this way, but I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe they're sort of wed to this conventional medical system that we have. And people know me, I'm a rebel. Even though my dad was a general and vascular surgeon, I had to get outside of the box if I wanted to find solutions for the issues I've had. But I mean, real science. And I'm glad that you brought up the education. So can you talk a little bit about that, and also like the philosophy behind Chinese medicine, like what it's based on?
Sure. So the education component, it's really hardcore. We're studying for a long period of time. Like I said, it's master's level kind of study, and then you can go on to doctorate level study as well. But the beginning part of it is a master's level program, and you study everything from the philosophy and background of traditional Chinese medicine. So everything from the types of pathogens or the way that Chinese medicine sees pathogens and sickness and disharmony, mind, body, spirit, that kind of stuff. You study all of that, as well as Western medicine, biomedicine. So pharmacology, Western medicine, disease pathologies. We might be studying heart attacks or statins for cholesterol issues or things like that. That's all part of it. And then once we get through our period of study where we're learning the background of everything, plus you have to learn the meridians and the points and all of the actual way that acupuncture itself works. You have to learn all of that too. Then we do our clinic rounds. And so we have a whole year. We have to do 250 hours of clinical time before we can even graduate with our degree. And we have to graduate with our degree, completing, all the studies plus the clinical rounds in order to be able to then sit for our board exams. And those board exams are directed through the NCCAOM, which also has a directory, you had asked me earlier, which also has a directory of the NCCAOM and licensed acupuncture practitioners across the entire United States. And so if somebody were looking for an acupuncturist in their area, that's where they would want to start, is to go to the NCCAOM website, which is, I think it's nccaom.org. And there's a tab on there that says find a practitioner. And then you can do all kinds of searches by name or region or that kind of thing.
Excellent.
But anyway, if you're looking for somebody who has gone through the full process to become a licensed acupuncturist, which is what you want if you want the quality medicine, then they will have gone through that whole schooling. They will have gone through the board exams. We take 4 of them, at least in the state of Ohio. We take a clean needle technique board, so how you handle the needle and how you handle the patient. We take a biomedicine board, so that's where Western medicine meets Chinese medicine. We take a points location, so where the points are on the meridians and what you would use them for, and point prescriptions. And we take
Sounds pretty intense.
all the Chinese medicine theory as well. So yeah, it is very intense, very intense. And you have to pass those before you can make a submission to your state's medical board to be able to be licensed. So once you pass all of those exams, then you still can't practice. You've done the education, you passed all the exams, you still can't practice until you pass the background checks and you get all your ducks lined up for the medical board to approve you and give you a license. And then at that point, you can practice.
What a journey.
It's quite a journey. Yeah, it is. And it's really stressful, especially because you've just done 3 years of school and it's not enough. So like you might have the wisdom, you might have the education, you've done the work in the clinic, so you know how to treat patients, you've been treating patients, you've seen their progress and successes. But once you're done, until you meet all these other board passing and licensure, you still can't practice. So you have like all this debt hanging over your head for most
Wow.
people, right?
Yeah.
That comes due in 6 months generally if you've done federally supported loans. And so you either have to pass your boards and get your licensing and get to work to service that debt, Or if you don't, then that starts compiling while you're still trying to get approval to be a practitioner. It's a big deal.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you have to be really committed and really serious about doing this. It
Yeah.
sounds very intense, like I said.
Yes, yes, and the dropout numbers in the programs are usually pretty high because it's such an intense program, and it's more than what you expect when you get in it and start to get deeper into the knowledge and all of that. And with the programs, the minimum requirement to be able to become an acupuncturist is just a bachelor's degree in anything. It doesn't even have to be in medicine or a body field or any of that kind of stuff. You'll be more successful, I think. At least that's what I noticed across the class that I was in and the classes that followed. If you have more of a desire toward health and wellness, you have a little bit of background in that, you'll usually be more successful in the intensity of the program. Whereas we had some people coming in like from criminal justice or from things that
English
don't
major
have,
like me.
yeah, they just don't have a whole lot of that kind of background or that kind of study. And so it's a lot because you're starting from square one, whereas other people are maybe on square five or something.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about acupuncture itself. I mean, I years ago, I think I told you this when we were on offline. I actually have had acupuncture in the past, and I have a friend who just swears by it. I mean, she had rotator cuff surgery about a year ago, and her doctor gave her the okay, and her physical therapist to sort of use acupuncture as a complement. And she's doing really well. Like she's moving right along in her recovery. So, talk to us a little bit about it so that people understand what it is.
Sure. So traditional Chinese medicine has multiple branches, of which acupuncture is just one. So oftentimes they combine like acupuncture and moxibustion, which is the needlework plus like a heating herb. Then there's the body work side of it, which is like tuina, Chinese massage, cupping, that kind of stuff. Then you've got like the herbal side of it as well. So, whatever it is, your herbal prescriptions, or whether that's, teas or the herbal medicines or whatever, you have that edge of it as well. Then you have kind of like the meditation and energy work side of it. So the Qigong, the Tai Chi, the meditation and breath work things. And then there's the diet and nutrition component. And so all of that integrates to be Chinese medicine. And then each acupuncturist has training in all of that as well through their school. And then they pull from whatever that is based on the client. For instance, the person you were talking about with the shoulder who used acupuncture, right? So the acupuncturists that worked with them obviously would have done needles, but they might have done like some tuina or some Chinese massage kind of stuff to work with the musculature around that area. They might have made recommendations of kind of like physical therapy like exercises to help re-strengthen or balance or train or whatever. And there might have even been some dietary suggestions because we know that there are many foods that are inflammatory, beverages that are inflammatory. And so if you have a condition where there's trauma in the body physically, those inflammatory foods and fluids are also going to make healing less quick.
Sure.
As an acupuncturist, we kind of pull from all of those places. And then each acupuncture, as I said, you can come from any background, right? As long as you have a bachelor's degree. And so each acupuncturist is a little bit different in their approach. We all have the foundational training, but like myself, as a yoga therapist and a massage professional, I pull a lot more of those, like physical things and the mental, spiritual things into that work as well with my patients and helping them find their own balance so that I can gear it specifically to them, not just in the points that I use, but what their whole life is needing to find that harmony again. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Sounds very personalized
Yeah.
based on each individual that comes to you.
Yes. And that's one of the things I love so much about the work is that this kind of medicine is the kind of medicine that is direct to the patient, personalized to the person that you're with. It's not a one size fits all. And so, for instance, this kind of speaks to what you're asking about, like, tell us a little more about Chinese medicine. So, for instance, if we go with a common topic like headaches or headaches and migraines or something like that. In Chinese medicine, there are multiple diagnoses that could go with a headache. In Western medicine, we have a headache or a migraine, and we have a pill to go with that. Or we hope that that pill helps when we prescribe that to someone. In Chinese medicine, we go, okay, tell me about your headache. Where is it? Is it in the front? Is it on the sides? Do you feel it in the back? It's on the top. What does it feel like? Is it throbbing? Is it pounding? If you squeeze your head, does that make it better? Does it feel like it's trying to press out of you? Does it feel like your head's caving in? All these things. We ask tons and tons of questions because each of those answers to that question gets us closer and closer to what's going on, where the disharmony is within the body. And so you could see 5 different people with headaches with 5 different reasons why they're having headaches consistently and 5 different treatments of which points we're going to use for those 5 different presentations because it can be so varied as to from a Chinese medicine perspective what's causing it and where that root is coming from. So maybe some people are having stress related headaches. They feel it at the back of the head. They sit and type on the computer a lot. Their shoulders are also tight, so there's a muscular component involved. They're not sleeping well, like all these different things. And so versus somebody who, let's say somebody who maybe has high blood pressure and they're easy to anger and their face is red all the time, and they're feeling it at the top of the head like it's going to explode. That's a whole different set of causes between those two examples. And we would treat differently because of those 2 different types. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And and that's where one of the many ways I think conventional medicine is lacking because it doesn't take the time. Well, insurance doesn't allow it, first of all, even if the doctor wanted to, but it doesn't allow for that kind of personalization where like you were just asking all those questions and really kind of getting to the root cause of the issue and then customizing a solution for that particular patient. And I
Yes.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's really brilliant. The bummer part about it, which you just touched on, is that even though there are some insurance companies who will pay for acupuncture, there isn't a lot of insurance coverage for acupuncture. And most clinics are, like a single acupuncturist or a couple acupuncturists that are working. So they don't have a billing department. They're not like a rotating door of you get on the table and now you're all, like all that kind of stuff. And so for some people, that becomes a hang up in their desires to go do acupuncture because it often requires a self-pay. And a self-pay for that can be anywhere from 90 to $250 depending on what city you're in, what state you're in, how much time you're actually spending with the patient. For me, mine is tiered. Everybody pays the same initial visit fee, and then the follow-up visits are tiered based on the complication of your case, what you need. If you need multiple modalities, obviously it's going to be more expensive. If you just need basic needles, then it's going to be a little less expensive. So it's just based on the modalities that a person needs in order for healing. And I'm not a person who wants to add modalities. I'm like, the least amount of work we can use to get it done, the better. I'm not adding modalities or putting people into different tiers just to make more money. I'm like, what is the least common denominator to get you into the place where you need to be well, and then get you out of my clinic space because I have a lot of patients and I need to make room for new patients, and so that kind of thing. The sooner you're well, the more people I can help.
Personally, and my whole book is about this basically, but I really believe your health is your wealth and the best investment you can make is in your health. And if to use your migraine example, like, thank God I've never suffered from those. But if I was having debilitating migraines and you had a solution based on what's going on with me personally and my lifestyle, that would be so worth it to get to the other side of that and feel great. And then when you're feeling great, you can go out and make more money. That's how I look at it. But I
Yeah.
think we've been so conditioned in our society. I hate this insurance system. A middleman makes everything way more expensive. And fortunately, I think more and more people are waking up to that. And I would think, let me just ask you this. I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but even if somebody came to you and their insurance took your services, would you be limited by the insurance company by the amount of time you could spend with that patient? Like, would,
Yeah, so you are limited and you also are paid less
of
for your
course.
work.
Yes.
So you're giving I mean, personally, I think
It's
if you're doing
crazy.
it right, you're giving the same amount of care to everyone, no matter if they're paying with insurance or if they're paying with self-pay funds. You're giving the same care. But with insurance patients, you're being paid less for that same quality of care. And then you're also much more specific on time. You're being paid in 15-minute increments. And there
Crazy.
are only so many 15 minutes that they will pay for in your services. You have to justify everything and all of that. I don't do insurance because I looked into it and I was like, why would I do double the amount of work? Like, why would I treat a patient plus have to do the billing stuff for half or less than half of the pay? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And it limits my ability to be with my patients in the way that I feel is most appropriate for their health and well-being. Because some patients require 20 minutes of just conversation to settle in and to not be nervous and to be willing to rest on the table for you to put needles into them. Some patients are just like, let's get in here, get me on the table. They're in and out in 45, 50 minutes. But other patients take the entire hour and a half that I have booked for appointments. So it varies and I don't want to be limited in that. I don't wanna be watching the clock so specifically that I have to not put my attention to the patient directly.
Yeah, good for you. And even in conventional medicine, I mean, so many doctors now do direct primary care. And I'm like, good for them. Probably for the same reasons. They don't want insurance to dictate how they can care for a patient. And just as a quick side note, my dad was a general and vascular surgeon. I mean, this is back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He fought with insurance companies all the time on behalf of patients to give them the proper care. And in some cases, my dad had no financial benefit. He wanted an elderly patient one time to stay an extra night in the hospital because the guy had major surgery. This was before laparoscopy. And he had a fight for this guy because the guy had no one at home to take care of him. And he had a fight on the phone for an hour, like to your point, wasting his time. But my dad felt so strongly as an advocate for his patients. He's like, I'm not sending this guy home. There's nobody home to watch him. I just want him to spend another night just for
Mhm.
observation. And I remember I was in his office. We could hear him screaming. And, because I used to go to his office a lot, with my mom as a teenager to, pay his staff and things like
Mhm.
that. And I remember thinking to myself even then, I mean, I was young, but I'm like, is this really the best use of his time? I mean, like, I was proud of him for standing up for his patient and fighting to do what's right. But like, why should any practitioner like yourself have to do that and then get paid less? Believe me, I know my mom used to say to me, see this procedure, this is worth like, let's say $5,000. And my dad would maybe get paid $1,000 if he was lucky. So
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah, well, and then, to do that efficiently, then you have to also hire a billing clerk, right? So the
Exactly.
billing clerk is keeping all of that, and so not only are you getting paid less for your services, but you're also spending money to have somebody else make sure that you get the money that they're gonna give you,
Exactly.
right? It's a very complicated system.
I totally understand that from my own experience. And
Yeah.
you're worth it. I mean, whatever you have to do if you really have a problem, which leads me to my next question, Michelle. So, what are some of the common illnesses or problems people struggle with that you help with? What do you
Yeah.
see? What are some of the things you see in your clinic?
Yeah, so some of my biggest things in the clinic are headaches and migraines,
Not
also pain.
surprising.
Lots of pain. So back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, that kind of stuff. I think because my background as a yoga therapist and as a body worker, that's just kind of the energy I draw toward me anyhow, I'm really good at pain. Let's see. I see some digestive issues. I work a little bit with fertility. I wouldn't say that either of those are my specialty. Like headaches and back pain are kind of like where I excel a lot. And it could be just because that's what comes into my clinic more. And so I have more practice at it, more work with it. But I do work on digestive issues and I do work with, fertility stuff to help people's bodies be ready for pregnancy. I support throughout pregnancy. That's some of my fun stuff. I really love watching babies grow inside people. And then I would say the other really big one is like the mental emotional thing, stress, anxiety, depression, that kind of stuff along with headaches and back pain. Like those are my top 3 in the clinic that I do the most work with. There's not a lot that I'll say no to. Tinnitus is one of them. I have not had success with that. It's a very complicated thing to treat. And when people call me, I'm just straight up and I'm like, I will work with you, but I have not had any success with this. So if you want to follow a treatment protocol and see if it works, I will give it my all, but I'm not super hopeful about that.
And that's the ringing in the ears, right? The
Yes.
tinnitus, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yep. So, there are some things where I'm just not keen on doing it, but if you're like so and so recommended me to you and I really want to work with you. Oftentimes what happens is I don't do anything for the ear ringing, but suddenly a person has realized that they're sleeping better or that they're more stress resilient or like
Yeah,
things that you do to help support that have overlaps in other areas as well. Notice some other side effects that they weren't expecting, and that either makes them want to continue care or they're like, I feel really great. Yeah, you're right. We didn't do anything for the ear ringing. And so they still get something out of it, even though we didn't solve the main problem, if that makes
sure.
sense. But I like to be really upfront with those things that I'm not good at and just say, it's complicated and I might not be your girl.
Yeah. No, that's great, and I mean, I'm sure people appreciate the honesty too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. Again, I'm fortunate enough. I'm really, really busy. I mean, I'm booked out usually 4 to 6 weeks in advance, and that feels really lovely. But also, it gives me the opportunity to be selective, and to really and to be honest, to be selective and to be honest with patients and say, I would love to see you. I would love to help, but I don't know if I'm the right fit for you. And here are a few other people in the area that might be a better fit. And also in those cases where I might be a great fit, like headaches, knock it out of the park. But you can't see me for 6 weeks. And if it's some sort of there's not really an acupuncture emergency, but if it's some sort of if you feel like it's emergent, then you might want to go see a colleague who's in the area, even though you've been referred to me or want to work with me or whatever. But if you can wait for 4 to 6 weeks and manage however you've been managing for the last 6 months,
Right.
then, then
Hang in there a little longer.
exactly, exactly. I did a post on my Instagram not so long ago, basically speaking to, like, there are no real acupuncture emergencies. And so if something feels emergent to you, but you've been dealing with it for a long time, it's not an emergency. You're just ready to be done with it and let's get you on the schedule. But like that's going to be when the next opening on my schedule is. The only things that I'll consider as emergent are like post stroke or Bell's palsy, because those require immediate attention as soon as you can get in to see someone. And so I'll figure out how to move things around to work people in those kinds of situations. But other than that, there's no emergency.
Bell's palsy. My mom had that when she was at 90s. And I think shock therapy, something really sounded absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And wish it had been around, or I probably people back then would have been open to it, even if it was around. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a shame. But I wanted to ask you too. So when somebody comes in, do you have them fill out like a pretty detailed? I don't want to call it an application, but like a questionnaire that includes questions about lifestyle and things like that.
I do, yeah. So over the years of my treating, I've changed my questionnaire a little bit to be more in line with how I need to spend my time and also for my patients. I used to have a really lengthy questionnaire that I would email the patients ahead of time, and I've whittled that down quite a bit, which was great in the beginning when I'm putting the puzzle pieces together and getting more attuned to my own practice. But now people can come in and for the most part we can have a very short conversation where I'm just asking detailed questions really quickly and picking up on those like nonverbal signs and things like that. And yeah, and then I can go right into treatment fairly quickly. And then as things change, we're constantly questioning, right? Like what's better, what's not better, so that we can adjust. So anyway, yes, I send out a detailed questionnaire ahead of time. I have people send that back so I can peruse it before they come in. That gets my brain thinking about some things before they arrive. And then when they come in, We have a good 15 or 20-minute conversation where I dive deeper into the questions. I might do some like physical assessment if there's a pain problem or um, an asymmetry problem or something like that. Might do a physical assessment. I ask lots of things that most people don't talk about. Everything from, movements to sleep to like technology hygiene, all those kinds of things, because it all plays a part in a person's overall well being. If somebody's telling me they're having insomnia, and I say, how much social media do you consume? How late are you on your phone? When do you turn your lights out? All of that plays a role. So, stuff like that. But yeah, I usually try to get as much information ahead of time so that I can have something in mind when they get there so that I'm not trying to figure it out on the fly in that moment.
Sure. No, that's excellent. It sounds very much like functional medicine too. Like the first time I went to a functional practitioner and I had to fill out this like 5 or 6 page application, I was blown away because it's so different. I know I keep going back to conventional medicine, but it's so different than what we're used to and just like you said, I mean, I struggle. I am the biggest offender when it comes to the technology hygiene at night, like putting the phone in another room, shutting it off. And I know, and these are all the things that a lot of a good functional medicine practitioner, I'll put it that way, looks into also and asks people aside from, like what you're eating, are you exercising, things like that. But the fact that you're busy, Michelle, I mean, that gives me hope because I feel like more and more people are kind of waking up to, hey, there's other solutions out there that actually get to the root cause. And hey, I'm going to invest in myself. So, I mean, it speaks to you as a practitioner. And also, I think to the fact that more and more people are seeking better options.
Yeah. And, just to go back a little bit to what we were talking about, like when I have people treat with me, typically what I like to do is a phone consult before I even send over any paperwork. I just have a free phone consult. I spend about 15 minutes chatting on the phone with somebody, asking them how they're feeling, what's going on, tell me about the things to first and foremost see if we're even a good fit. If we're a good fit, then I will say, okay, here's what I recommend in the way of a treatment protocol, right? So usually for me, most people I want to see like 5 visits weekly, once weekly for 5 weeks, basically. So we have our initial visit where we dive deeper into what's going on. And then I give them actual treatment that day too. And that could be acupuncture, it could be moxibustion, it could be cupping, it could be assessments where I'm like having them walk and I record what they're doing to see the imbalances and asymmetries. It could be a whole lot of different things in our initial assessment. And then I have them follow up the following week and what got better. And then we tweak from there. And what I find is no matter what it is, a headache, a body pain, a digestive issue, stress and anxiety, whatever, when you're pulling your body back to a place of harmony, what is happening is life is still lifing. So while life is still lifing, all the things that got you there in the first place are still present. And we're trying to create a resiliency, a balance in your body for that to not be as impactful. So I'll treat someone and I'll tell them, 4 or 5, you're going to feel great for like 3, 4, or 5 days. You'll feel then you have more balance than you have. But after about day 4, it'll start to creep back in a little bit. You might notice a faint headache. You might notice that pain returning a little bit because life is still lifing and your body hasn't figured out how to be resilient in your particular life situation. So I want to see you in a week so that when you come back, we can stop that from going full blown again. And we can say to your body, no, no, life is lifing, but this is where we want to be, right? And then we do that. And so I tell people all that on the phone, as well as discuss pricing and all that, so that they know right up front, if you want the best results, you follow this treatment protocol. This is what it's going to cost you. And if you believe in the treatment, if you believe in my work, then we're a good fit for each other. And let's get that on the calendar. Because why waste either person's time or
Hmm.
money?
I love it. That's a great system. And it seems like this is a longer term. I mean, I'm sure it's different for every individual based on whatever their problems are, but it's not a quick fix. I mean, so talk to me a little bit about that. Maybe give me an example, maybe of someone you work with that came to you with just a problem that was just almost debilitating for them and how acupuncture was able to bring them back to a state of wholeness. and
Yeah,
well-being.
sure. Yeah, so you're right. It is not a quick fix. And it's something you have to continually give to and be willing to make some other changes in your life too, right? So, for instance, I mean, I keep going back to headaches because it's just so common and people are so common with them. And let's just go with like a basic stress headache, you know.
Okay.
Back of the head, neck and shoulders are tight, spend a lot of time on computers with deadlines and the pressure of the world, right? That kind of thing. That. So, with that kind of treatment, again, same thing. I'm going to see them weekly for 3, 4, maybe 5 visits. And then we stretch out to every 2 weeks. And then we'll do that for a few times. And then if it's all holding, then I just see them on a monthly maintenance. And what I expect from that in the headache thing is that they'll feel better. They'll say, "I was having headaches every day, all day long." That's the original conversation, right? I'll do a treatment and they'll say, "I got a couple headaches that lasted for like half a day between our treatment." And I'll be like, "That's great. That's progress, right? Like you're still getting headaches. They're not gone yet, but that's progress." And then we'll do the treatment again, adjust it how we need to. We'll do the treatment again and in the second week, and then we take that week until they come back. And I say, pay attention. How many, how severe, how long did you need to use medication? All the things. And they'll come back and they'll tell me, had one headache or two headaches. I barely noticed it. I didn't take medicine, whatever the story is. And then we do the treatment. And then the third week, usually they're coming back going, "I didn't even notice any headaches this time." And I'm like, "Great." And then we'll do the treatment, adjust however we need. The fourth week, they will come back and they'll go, "No headaches, no medication, like my shoulders are feeling good," that kind of thing. And I'll say, "Okay, let's do 2 weeks now. Let's see if your body can hold that for 2 weeks." And 2 weeks come, maybe that just starts creeping in right at the end of 2 weeks, right before their appointment. That's generally true. And I'm like, "Great, you made it almost to 2 weeks. When it started creeping in, what was that like?" You know, it was just minor annoyance, I could tell it was coming, but it didn't stop me from working. I didn't have to take medicine. So that was great. And then ultimately I put them on a every 4 weeks. And generally, if they have a headache, it's barely anything. So that's kind of cool. I love watching that. It gives me the opportunity to like be a cheerleader for other people and to celebrate their wins. And the most difficult part about that process as a patient and a practitioner is healing is happening, but it's really hard for us to see healing happening. Healing is happening, and that's why we ask what's better, what's worse, that kind of stuff. So headaches are still going to be there, but they're not as severe. They're not as debilitating until one day they aren't there. And it's that process. If you expect that you're going to go get a few treatments and they're just going to be gone forever, that will be a little disappointing. But if you actually trust the acupuncturist and they lay out a clear treatment plan for you and you pay attention across that treatment plan, you'll see that over time, things just get less and less. Your body gets more resilient and more stable so that all that life is putting on you that's causing that is more resilient. You're just more resilient against it. Does that
And,
make sense?
in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that long. Let's say it takes 6 weeks. I
Right.
was just saying it's not a quick fix, but if you've been struggling with headaches for years and you say to somebody, "Well, it's gonna take about 6 weeks," I mean, I think that's a great deal. But I also wanna ask you how much is incumbent upon the person too, because let's just say with that patient that has the headaches, maybe you told them to eat certain foods or avoid certain foods, and maybe you told them to, I don't know, exercise,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So talk to me a little bit about the patient and their responsibility in all of this.
Yeah. So great question because we're a team, right? And I get to see you for 60 to 70 minutes once a week. And then the rest of that is on you as the patient. And so if patients are following if you're getting headaches from the exposure to the blue light and the screens and all of that, and I say reduce your screen time, get blue blocker, whatever
Sure.
the things are, if you take those steps, you'll notice the differences, right? But if you don't take those steps, then my work is harder and our time together is going to be longer. The progress is going to be slower. But yeah, we're a collaborative team. When you're working with an acupuncturist, a functional medicine practitioner, chiropractor, anybody who's in these kind of alternative wellness fields, anytime that you're working with someone like that, even like a physical therapist, which is in more of a Western medicine format, when you're working within those fields, if you're not doing your homework, if you're not bringing what you're supposed to be bringing to your own health and wellness, the practitioner that you're seeing is not a miracle worker. Like we can
Right.
do a little bit to help your body, but it's also dependent on you and what you bring to that collaboration, how much you're going to follow the guidance, follow the instruction, follow the recommendations. And that part's out of our hands, as a
Yeah.
practitioner, it's out of my hands whether or not, if dairy is making your condition worse and I say maybe cut back on, the cheeses and the yogurts and the milk, and you're like, but I love all that stuff. I get it. I get
Hmm.
it. We all love that stuff. But if it's creating part of your problem,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to be flexible in the things that you need. And that doesn't mean that it's maybe forever, but it might be. But you
Hmm.
have to be willing to be flexible to bring your own part to that medicine to work too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to prioritize your own healing. And like in this case, you would be the guide, right? The healer is sort of the guide. But if you don't listen to the guide and their recommendations, that's on you. I mean, that's how I feel about it. And that's
Yeah.
what I love about acupuncture and functional medicine because and all of these types of modalities because it really asks the person, it puts the person in charge of their health. It demands that you become a participant rather than just outsourcing everything to your doctor or just popping a pill and
Yes.
wondering why you're not getting better. And so that's the part I love about it.
Well, and that's the interesting thing too. If we go back to the headaches, a lot of the people that I see that are having consistent headaches or migraines and all that, they are taking whatever medication, whatever pill, and it's not helping. That's the thing. They're taking it on the regular with the idea. I hear them all the time say, if I stopped taking this, it would be so much worse. And I'm like, if it would be so much worse than the worst that you're presenting to me, is the medication really even working?
Right.
Like that kind of thing, or digestive issues, or, just different things sometimes. And I'm not anti-medicine. I think there's definitely a place for it, but I would really love to see medicine done in the same way that alternative medicine is done, wherein I'm a huge fan of compounding pharmacists
Me too.
because they are doing specific blends of the things that you need for your exact labs and your exact needs. They get a really bad rap because it's outside tradition. Again, compounding pharmacists are not quite as mainstream as just generalized pharmacology. They're not saying just like, here's the Xanax or here's the whatever. They're going, we're going to tweak the ingredients in this to be very specific to what your needs are. So I'm not anti-medicine, but I'd love to see medicine be more individualized and personalized as well, so that there are fewer side effects and there's more efficacy with that medicine for whatever that specific problem is. Because I think that those two can work in tandem. And sometimes you do need the medicine so that you can be functional in life while you get other things figured out to move forward. But this idea that we have within our system where medicine is a forever thing, like I have headaches, so I have to take this pill for the rest of my life to keep my headaches under control, is a very poor solution that doesn't actually address the reason why you have headaches to begin with in the first place.
Exactly. It's not a root cause solution. And like, what's it doing to your liver? That's what I was thinking about too when you were
Yeah.
talking about the medicine. Not only will your headaches be worse, okay, if I stop taking my headache will be worse. And I'm thinking, and what's it doing to your liver and your other organs in the
Right.
meantime? People don't always think about that.
Yes. Yes. I think we're just set up as a culture too where we're not really deeply aware of how this machine works. We had maybe some basic body teaching in junior high. And then that's maybe the
Learned about the
extent.
mitochondria and sophomore year biology or something.
Right, exactly. And so and we only half paid attention because why do we even care about this stuff anyway? That kind of stuff. And so we've had some basic teaching long, long, long ago, and we're just completely unaware of how the machine is designed to work and so influenced by social media and the propaganda of commercialing and all the things. We're so influenced by those things that it makes it very easy to tune out of the body or to be interested in a quick fix or to believe that a pill that you take for the rest of your life is a solution.
Right.
And I think um that's a real disservice to people in general. Like all those things coming together create a real disservice to people in general when we all should know how this machine works, at least at some, basic first year college introductory space, right? We should have the basic knowledge of how this machine works. Like, we all have a little basic knowledge about how our cars work or
Right.
how a washer and dryer work or how the dishwasher works, right? Whenever it breaks down, we go see a skilled professional to help us tune it back up. But we have some sort of basic awareness. Machine of the human body, our basic awareness is food in, waste out.
Yeah. No, it's true. And
That's
you
what
can't even watch an NFL football game or even HGTV without being bombarded. Every commercial's pharma. And then they
Yeah,
go through the laundry list of like possible side effects,
you're
And then
right.
and there are all these commercials. I mean, they spend millions on these commercials, all the production, and you see people, skiing, and everybody's happy or whatever it is, and it's that constant programming, though.
Yes.
I think what are we? We're only one of two countries that even allow pharmaceuticals to market directly to the consumer.
Yes.
When it's ask your doctor about this or ask your doctor about that. And I mean, I get so mad. It drives me crazy. But I think that plays into just what you're saying, though. Like, we don't know enough about our own bodies. And then we're just getting these messages like, do you have a headache? Well, here's this great new pharma product to
Yeah.
take.
I actually wrote a blog post on that. I don't know if you saw it while you're perusing my website, but I actually wrote a blog post on migraines because I was watching a streaming service and I had watched several episodes of a series.
Yeah.
In the commercial breaks, they were putting out migraine medication. The first one, I was like, no big surprise, it's a pharmaceutical commercial. Don't remember the name of the drug, but they did that. And then the next commercial, they were talking about a migraine medicine with a different name. And my ears perked up and I was like, two migraine commercials in the same thing, right? And then on the next commercial break, they were talking about migraines again with a different named medication.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, 3 different medications for migraines in this, several episodes period. And I was like, I know that acupuncture works for migraines and that isn't needed, right? So I wrote a blog post about it because I was like, wow, I can't believe that in streaming this series, I was marketed to for 3 different migraine medications during this programming. And it just blew my
Crazy.
mind. Blew my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that just contributes to people not knowing enough about their bodies and this whole mentality of I'm just going to outsource and I'm just going to take a pill instead of
Yeah.
getting to the root cause and working on a solution that might take a little bit longer, but is going to have long-term benefits. So that was my next question for you too. So going back, let's just use a migraine example again, because I mean, unfortunately, so many people are suffering with them. So they get to that point maybe where they're once a month maintenance. In your experience, do most people like they never come back again as long as they do the things that you ask them to do? And
Yeah,
and
so yeah, in my experience, it's been what we then see because I'll have them on, a 4 to 6 week maintenance treatment, basically indefinitely, right? Because life is
yeah,
life. And just reminding their body like this is normal, this is balance. And so when they're in those maintenance treatments, generally they come back and I haven't had headaches or I haven't had migraines. The only time we see something like that return is when whatever it is that their root cause is happening at a larger level in time. So if it's a stress headache like we've been talking about, so it's like a stress headache and they are now like at the end. I have a teacher, for instance, who this fits with. So they're at the end of the school year, they're doing a ton of work, there's a lot of stress, they're preparing for summer vacation and closing the classrooms, and there's just a lot more expectation there.
yeah,
Plus, maybe their kids are in school, so they're preparing for summer camps and, just all the extra things, right? So we'll see when stress goes 150% instead of 100%, we might see that that comes back really low grade, nothing of great concern or something like that. But then we can talk through that and I can also be like, oh, well, here's what's going on, right? Like You're telling me you're like 20 of 10 stress. Makes perfect sense because your body is not calibrated for 20 of 10 stress. We're calibrated for 10 of 10 stress, normal stress, right? And so, well, we need to like just clean up some of that in the system. So, for the most part, once we get things under control, they stay under control with regular maintenance. And then, if there is some sort of situational extra that comes their way, we might see a flare in that condition. But it's rare unless there's some situational stress that comes into play.
It's excellent. So I think just again, when people, and I'm assuming most people in your practice are willing to participate in their health and do whatever your protocol is for that individual, or maybe not so much.
Most part. I mean, we're all human, right? Like even myself, like I'm human and I get the same kind of advice that I give other people and I follow it sometimes and I follow it not sometimes, right? Because to live perfectly is impossible to do. So, I mean, we're in the holiday season. I expect that there's all kinds of headaches flaring, digestive issues
Sure.
flaring, inflammatory processes like it's happening, right? I can my own things, I can feel them happening and I know exactly why they're happening and I know exactly how to get back on track, right? And that's the thing is do you have a strategy when you go into those situational times that are going to pull you out of balance? Do you have a strategy for pulling yourself back into balance? And then can you get back into that strategy? Because that's the hard thing too. It's easier to be out of strategy. It's easier to just like go on autopilot and eat the things that taste good and make you feel good and drink the things that, you want to do or spend the extra time watching more TV or social media or whatever. And all these things are fine. It's just a moderation. Can we find the moderation of all of these things? Because it's the nature of being human in this period of time that we live. Perfection is just, it's not something that's going to happen. And so, can we find strategies to where we're in moderation? And then when we pull ourselves up above moderation, how do we get back
Hmm.
to that place? And it's very person specific and it's the person's work to do. I, as a practitioner, can help tweak the body a little bit, but you, as the person living in the machine, have to know what your strategies are, the strategies that we've put in place if we're working together on that. And then you have to just dedicate to them again.
Exactly. Kind of like the 80-20 rule too. I mean, I know for myself, I do not cook with seed oil. I'll just use oils as an example because that's, everybody knows about seed oils now, right?
Yeah.
And I mostly cook at home, but I'm not going to drive myself. If I want to go out to dinner with my friends, I'm not going to make myself crazy going, oh my God, did they make the hamburger? Like I think that's part of it too, right? But I'm not out eating every single day. It's a once in a while thing. Because I think you could go the other extreme and drive yourself crazy. So the human body is resilient too. So as long as you have, like you were saying, a strategy to get back on track, maybe after you've eaten something you shouldn't have. Like I'm also gluten free because of the Hashimoto's. Now, we had a family reunion back in October, and my cousin made homemade cookies, and I hadn't seen these cookies in years, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to have one. And the thing is, if I decide I'm going to do that, then I don't put myself on a guilt trip. I just say, I'm going to enjoy this now, and then tomorrow, I'm just getting right back on track. And I think that's what you have to do. And it took me a long time to learn how to do that, but I did. So this way, you can still live your life, but you don't have to ruin your health either. So
Yeah.
in the process.
Well, I think the brilliant thing about that too is because I do the same thing. It's like an 80-20 kind of situation for me as well. I think the really interesting thing about doing that, going into the avenues that we know aren't good for us, especially after you've been clean or dedicated to your strategy for a while, is it gives you the opportunity to really see why and really feel why it is that you are staying with your strategy. Yes, that stuff tastes really fantastic on your tongue. And yes, it like sends all these fireworks sparks in your brain, all
Yeah.
of that. No, it does not make your digestion feel good. No, your
Nope.
energy isn't well, like
Sure.
your joints start to hurt or whatever the case might be. But at least for me, when I make a choice like that, I know what I'm getting. I
Hmm.
know that I am going to say yes to something that I ordinarily say no to. I know how that is going to go through the machine and what is going to be the side effects of that. inside the machine and I'm saying to myself, I'm going to accept the consequences of this
Yep.
because I know how to recover from the consequences of this. And I'm going to try to do that as quickly as possible so that I get back to a place of balance that feels good living in this machine.
Yes.
And that's the important part. And the only person who can do that for you is you. I kind of like that. I mean, I don't like feeling not good, but I kind of like the reminder of why it is I stay so dedicated to whatever choices it is that I'm making for my strategies.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think it makes it easier to just get right back on track too. Okay, I enjoyed this temporary pleasure. I've suffered the consequences and now I'm ready to get back on track. I think it's a good thing.
Tricky part about that, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the tricky part about that is when you get if you continue down that pathway of all the things that make you feel bad, you have like that first part where you're like, oof, this is not good. I shouldn't be doing this, right? And then, as you were saying, the body adapts. And so if you keep going, the body adapts and you don't feel it as much anymore. It's just like becoming this cumulative nonsense going on inside that you don't notice until you're very sick or until you're very tired or, like until the extreme buildup happens. And that's harder to turn around than the, oof, this does not feel good, but I was glad I did it. I know the consequences. I'm getting back on track. But
Yes.
have you noticed that there's that tipping point between this
Hmm.
doesn't feel good, I'm getting back on track to I don't notice anything is going wrong until it's really wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's like you got to catch yourself in the this doesn't feel good and then go back to the strategy instead of
Exactly.
going to that tipping point because then it's going to be a month or two before you finally are like, oh, yeah, I've been eating cheesecake every day for 12 days, like whatever it is.
Exactly. And I know for me, like once I got on the other side of Hashimoto's and got it, I like to say under control. I don't know that you could ever say it's in remission, but once all the symptoms went away, I felt so good that I just wanted to keep feeling good. So that's for me, that's like an incentive. And then that sort of gives you contrast for those times when you're at a party or a special occasion or whatever and eat something you normally wouldn't have. And then you
Yeah.
start to feel a little off. Okay, let me get right back on track because I never want to go back to feeling the way I felt before.
Yeah.
The fatigue, the skin breakouts, the thinning hair, like all of it.
Right.
It's
Right.
like you just want to keep feeling great. At least that's how it is for me. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and I mean, those things might be fun in the short term, but they're just not worth the long term
I agree
consequences.
100%.
So, Michelle, I loved our conversation. It went by so fast, but I want to ask you: is there anything we haven't discussed? Anything else you want to share with the audience before we sign off today?
I guess maybe the only thing that I would say is, for people who are kind of struggling with anything that the approaches you've been undergoing aren't really working or aren't really giving you the desired effect, perhaps consider seeing an acupuncturist or a Chinese medicine practitioner. It's just a different way of looking at the body, looking at, disease pathology, looking at the way the system is integrated as a whole. Consider if the things that you've been doing aren't getting you the results that you're hoping for. Consider working with somebody like that who's going to look into maybe some more of those root causes that can clean up on a deeper level than even what, like your level of understanding is, and then trust the process. Like, really give yourself the time to commit to it and trust the process rather than going, "I went once and it didn't do me any good."
Right.
It's a process and you may not feel everything all at once. It's an unfolding. I always tell my patients it's like an onion, each time we see each other, we're peeling away another layer of the onion that is you. And so whatever those big superficial things are, we kind of peel that off first and then we can get deeper into whatever that root is. And really affect some real long lasting change, real long lasting healing, but it's a process and you need to be curious and flexible and willing to trust the process. So you really want to find a practitioner that you vibe with so that you can be in that place to trust the process.
And Michelle, I'm going to put a link to that organization you mentioned where they have a directory. Because I would think that would be your first recommendation is to start there and find somebody in
Yeah.
their local area.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Or even, like if you are a social media person, like throw it out there
Oh,
in your
sure.
Facebook or on your Instagram. Does anyone know of any licensed acupuncturists around the area that you really trust? And then you'll get all kinds of responses, everything from your chiropractor, who might actually also be a licensed acupuncturist. They have to go through the same training for that, but they might also be, but they might not be. So then you can go into that directory, do a check and see, are they hitting all of those spaces that you want them to hit to be a licensed acupuncturist, to work from this more holistic perspective that we've been talking about.
And do you know, you may not know the answer to this, but do most practitioners like you do a sort of a free 15-minute call? Like, because I feel like you can
Do
really.
some don't, some just have you come in. I put that in because I think it's a really good way to not waste anybody's time or money.
Exactly.
It's just easier for me to spend 15 minutes chatting with somebody on the phone to find out if we're a good fit. And, like I was giving away my secrets now, but I've kind of refined my listening such that I know whether or not a patient is going to commit. And if they're not willing to trust the process or to really be in it with me, if they don't sound like they have the same kind of if they sound like they want symptom management and not, root
Cause
cause
solutions.
care, you know, collaborative medicine, then they're not a good fit for me. And I'm okay with that. I wanna be really upfront with someone about that too and just say, "It sounds like what you're asking for is not a good fit for what I do." So some people do. I've put it in place just because it allows me to save time in the long run and save people money. And also, I think it kind of saves my reputation too, because now there aren't a whole bunch of people out there in the world saying, I did acupuncture with so and it didn't help. I want people out there going, I did acupuncture with Michelle and it was the best thing for me. That was the best choice I could make.
Michelle, and in Ohio, what city, what area do you serve?
I'm
No.
in Athens, Ohio,
Okay.
so southeastern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, and that's another reason why I wanted to spend some time talking about patient responsibility, because this is so different from conventional medicine where you go in and you have your 10-minute visit if you're lucky and they just refill your prescription or whatever. I mean, this is so different.
Yeah.
But you this is not a hand outsource it to the practitioner kind of thing. This is you are the guide and that person has to like take responsibility and take control. I love that because it puts the patient in control. You find the right person that has the knowledge and the experience. They give you the roadmap and then you have to follow it.
Yes.
So,
Yes, and I think it's important, especially when we're talking about patient responsibility, I think it's important for the practitioner to put themselves in the patient's shoes too and realize that if you give them a list of 12 things to do right from the jump, it's going to be overwhelming and it's going to be hard. And so, like, start with some easy, basic things. Like for me, I always start with water. How much water are you drinking? And if they're not drinking the minimum required, then I'm like, okay, this week I want you to go
mhm.
for this and, be more on it than you're not. Right. Like I'm not
Yeah,
even asking you for 100%, just be more on it than you're not. And then that builds trust in themselves, right? That they can make a change and that it wasn't terrible and it didn't cause their life to be that much disrupted, like those kinds of
sure.
things. And then we can say, then we can progress to another thing. I want you to whatever, eat less dairy or whatever situationally it might be. Then we can progress to something, slowly progress to things that are harder because you've had that conversation with the patient about these are the things that will benefit you. Let's start with the easiest one.
I
I,
love that.
me, it's just like setting them up for success, right? That's how I wanna be handled differently, where people have said, "You need to do X, Y, Z," and I'm like, "I don't have the time in my day to deal with all of that." I need
Right.
it to be like brushing my teeth, Like, that was a habit that I established a long time ago, and it continues to maintain itself. How do we add one thing that can be a habit that maintains itself without you having to think about it? How can we make it that easy for a patient to be able to make simple lifestyle changes that will only be in their benefit?
I love it. And then they can just kind of gradually build and build till they get to where they need to be. That's awesome.
Yeah. And another pet peeve I have, like I work with clients, patients who are overweight and who clearly some of their issues are because of the excess weight they have on. They have been to so many doctors and always the response is you need to lose weight. I really hate that.
Nice.
They already know that.
Yeah.
They do not need people body shaming or
No.
like they do not need their practitioner saying what they already know and what they already want to do. They need small, actionable things that, if done consistently, will build up over time. And that's kind of how I try to think about it with any of my patients, whether they're overweight or they consume too much social media or alcohol or whatever the case might be. I don't want to be like, well, your problem is. I want to be like, what would it be like if this week we tried to add more of this or take away some of the, like
Hmm.
let's experiment with that and see what that's like. It could be great, it could not be great, but it's a week. What's it matter? And then
Yeah,
you need
absolutely.
small, consistent stability.
Well, it's very respectful of people's humanity and what everybody's dealing with in this crazy world that we're living in. And I know I hate that when doctors like lose weight. Okay, well, thank you for stating the obvious. Why don't you just give me some ideas of things I can do? I totally agree with you. And I also think a lot of doctors shame patients, which I think is horrible because we could do a whole show about that weight and all the different factors that play into why a person is overweight. But maybe we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah.
But Michelle, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. And like I said, I love that this is the first episode of the new year going out. And I really encourage people. I'm going to put all of your links in the show description and also the organization that you mentioned where people listening can then go and find the right acupuncturist in their area and really get well and get healthy in
Yeah,
2026.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I'm delighted that this gets to be the first one of your New Year series.
Yeah, I'm psyched. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I'm excited too. Thank you, Michelle. And I wish you a very happy and healthy new year and look forward to having you on again sometime.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Hi, I'm Dr. Liz. I just want to tell you how amazing and easy it was to work with Daria on my book. You see, I've had a book for a while, been sitting on my desk, sitting on my computer. Maybe you might be able to relate to that. And I didn't know what to do, how to take it to the next step, how to make it look polished and edited and easy and useful for my readers. Met with Daria. We had some great conversations. She learned my voice, my goal, my style, and she was able to edit and give me feedback on how to make my message clearer, more focused, polished, and it worked. I have a book. In fact, I have a book and a workbook that she's edited for me and guided me along the pathway. So if you're maybe a little bit like me, that you have a book or you have an idea and you haven't known where to take it, how to take it to the next stage, reach out to Daria. She's a game changer and she's really easy to work with and takes great pride in her work as well. So join me in the published author arena. Reach out to Daria. I'm Dr. Liz.